We have roll call, please.
Yes. Commissioner Hoff? Here. Commissioner Jelassic? Here. Commissioner Belt?
Here.
Trustee Rhodey?
Here.
President Knutson?
Here.
And Commissioner Liebert is excused, and so is Commissioner Grabowski.
Okay. Before I go into the second part of the meeting, I'd like to introduce Ben from Foth. He is our new village planner. Welcome to the group here.
Thank you.
We'll try to be nice. Okay, item 2 is public hearings. Conditional use grant request of applicant Maggie Spada to construct a 1,938 square foot office building with the existing, detached garage approximately 550 square feet proposed to remain in place. The existing garage is approximately 5.5 feet off the side lot line where a 10-foot offset is required. Section 40.270, and approximately 2 feet off the public alley where a 15-foot setback is required, section 40.269. This .2 acre parcel located at 316 Oakland Avenue, Zone B2, Downtown Business District. I'll open up the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment as it relates to that particular subject? Nobody? Okay, then we're going to close that one. We're going to go right into the next. My computer doesn't. Okay, item 3, citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to share their opinions with commission members on any topic they choose. However, due to Wisconsin open meeting laws, the commission is not able to answer questions or respond to your comments. All comments should be directed to the commission. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers are asked to please use the podium and state their name and address for the record. I'm just going to throw it out there. Is there anybody that would like to make a comment at this time? Yes, sir.
Anything.
Anything at all?
Sure.
Yep.
Yes, please come up to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Mark Bunker, owned the property 322 Oakton Avenue. Just a question I have is about the Airbnb that is next to our building now. I know there are some restrictions and everything, but I don't know if that was taken care of or done. It was just kind of shocking, so.
So the commission can't answer questions
Right,
directly?
I just did something that is on record. I would like to find
Sure.
out, eventually it'll get looked into or something would happen with
I
that.
would suggest you contact village staff. We'd be happy to respond to you.
I have on that already.
Okay.
And then one more comment with the building next to me, the other side, at Maggie's building. I looked at the plans. I'm okay with it. I think it would be a nice added feature to the street. So in the alley with the garage, the setbacks really shouldn't matter because there's not a garage in that alley that makes setbacks requirements. So I think it's kind of a moot point. So whatever her building looks great. I'm not opposed to it at all.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Is there anybody else that would like to make a comment at this time? No? Okay. Then we're going to move on. Item 4 is approval of the regular planning commission meeting dated June 13th, 2024. I hope the commission's had a chance to look it over. Are there any questions, comments, or corrections as the way it is presented this evening? If not, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
Motion by Rhodey to approve as written.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes have been adopted. Old business, review, discussion, and possible recommendation to village board regarding draft ordinance creation, of section 40.3674A2 of the municipal code of the village of Pewaukee regarding the conversion of an outlot to buildable single-family residential use status in the residential infill redevelopment overlay district. Scott, who do you want to handle?
I can handle it. This is, was asked to be moved forward by the Plan Commission at the last meeting. It's now in ordinance form for Plan Commission consideration of recommendation to the village board for adoption, at which there would be a public hearing before the village board prior to any action on the proposed ordinance.
Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this topic? Okay, then could I have if there are none, I'll look for a motion to recommend this to the village board for adoption.
I will make a recommendation to the village board for adoption of this ordinance as written.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby created, approved, recommendation to the village board. New business, review, discussion, and possible action on a proposed business site plan to construct a 1,938 square foot office building and a conditional use grant to allow the existing detached garage approximately 550 square feet remain in place. This 0.2 acre parcel located at 316 Oakland Avenue is zoned B2 Downtown Business District. Property owner is Posivito LLC, applicant Maggie Spada. I will ask the board, are there any questions or comments as it relates to this particular subject? Do you have any questions to our planner, anything? No?
So I'll just add, sorry to interrupt, but I believe you've received the staff summary, which kind of walks you through everything and kind of highlights the points. And the one point I'll just highlight, unless somebody has a question, but I was just going to mention the reason for the conditional use grant is to allow the detached garage as it's proposed to remain at a lesser setback than what we require normally. The current setback is less than 10 feet. And it sits right today, as they're proposing to place it again, it's less than that. But essentially, that's a conditional use request, so I just like to highlight that. So with that being said, do you have any questions?
And the 1.5 story when we become that.
Yeah, and so there was a note too that the 1.5 story, it would require that to be advertised as a conditional use grant and then properly notified and sent out to property owners that also is being requested. That technically does need to follow that process as well. So in other words, we're kind of looking at this today. So I believe staff is recommending this to be carried over or tabled to next month until we can duly notice that.
Yeah, and when the application came in, that was my error in catching the need for the conditional use also for a structure less than 1.5 stories. I was looking at the setback and the offsets related to the non-conforming structure and did not catch that with the less than 1.5 story requirement for conditional use.
So would the CUG essentially cover both the existing garage exception and the 1.5 story?
Once properly noticed
Yeah.
for, yes, so those would be incorporated into one conditional use document.
Okay,
Which could
okay.
be acted on after the August Plan Commission meeting if the
Okay.
commission were to approve.
The issue is the agenda did not properly notice the 1.5 story, or the exception from the 1.5 story requirement. So the commission is not in a position to act on that tonight.
Okay, okay.
And I don't think it makes sense to have a half approval that's not going to do any good to the applicants to do that tonight. I think the right thing to do is to table this, defer it to a future meeting where we can get the proper notice.
Yeah, and with that, if there are any comments, feedback that the commission has, now would be an opportune time to provide that, so those could be incorporated, any changes that you desire when it comes back in August with that hearing for the less than 1.5 stories. And I'm not sure if Tim has any comments on the site plan or any feedback.
Yeah, if I could just, it's really one thing that we didn't get in the packet, which was the grading plan. I know this is a small site, relatively flat. It looks like a single-family lot, but any kind of change like this where you have lots or homes and garages that are very close, I think it's critical that we determine that there's no adverse effect of any drainage to the neighbor with this new structure. And so we really need a grading plan, drainage plan, which was not submitted with the original application. So we would be looking for that at the August meeting then. And I can give you more information at that time.
So right now, we're looking at you're wanting us to table this till the first August meeting.
Yeah, unless there's any feedback you have on the architecture that's presented, general site plan concepts, any concerns on the setback with the garage. If there are any concerns you want us to work on with the applicant going into August, we'd like to hear those now.
I have a couple questions. I thought I read that there was nothing, that nothing was going to change with the garage. Did I misread that?
No, I
The
think,
current garage on site, because it already doesn't, it's already non-compliant with the 2 feet and the 10 feet, but they're not gonna do anything to it, so it's not really, it's a mute issue, correct?
other than incorporating that into the conditional use to specifically going forward, say it's allowed to stay in its existing condition and location.
So because they're raising the other building, we have to approve them to keep the.
Look at the entire site anew.
Okay. And if the house that's there already currently is 2-story, what am I missing and why are we tabling it because it's 1.5?
The the existing house that there is non-conforming, or not non-conforming, the current B2 code specifically states that a structure less than 1.5 stories is only approvable by conditional use grant.
Okay.
Are there any problems from the commission as far as the way the building looks or any other thing that has to deal with this, other than that we are waiting to hear the drainage and going from 1 story to 1.5?
1.5, yeah, the conditional use for less than 1.5 stories.
Is there any other comments or questions as it relates to any of those? Okay. So, okay, so those are the only two things that are hanging everything up right now then? Just the drainage and
The grading plan, yeah, the site grading plan that Tim needs to review proper drainage. And then publishing for the CU notice for the less than
Okay.
1.5 story.
Okay, then I'll look for a motion to table this till the first August meeting.
I would make a motion just to defer action. I would use the word
Defer
defer
action. Okay.
rather than table.
Okay, I'll look for a motion to defer.
Motion to defer.
Second, Rhodey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, this is deferred to the first meeting in August. Review, discussion, of possible action of proposed business site plan to modify portions of the Pewaukee High School to demolish 16,690 square feet and construct a 34,950 square foot. This is 80-acre parcel located at 510 Lake Street. It is zoned IPS Institution Public Service District. Property owner and applicant is the Pewaukee School District. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this particular piece of? Would you like to get an overview from our?
I would, I honestly would, because I played with the map and I moved it around and I'm better talking buildings than,
Okay, Ben, you're on.
Okay, we'll walk through the staff summary that was prepared tonight. So it just kind of highlights generally what we're looking at, and we'll kind of guide you through that. So the overview is, again, they're looking to demolish roughly 16,700 square feet of the existing
excuse
building.
me, we have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Is there a reason that we don't have it on the screen?
Oh, I guess we could put something up.
yeah.
Like, sure.
We're learning new styles.
No. Absolutely, you know, we're just creatures of habit now.
Yeah.
We're not human, are we?
What is the existing part that's being taken down?
Sorry about
What is in the existing building that's being taken down?
It's the current,
Could you step up to the microphone, sir, and just identify yourself? Sorry.
Hi, Mike Cady, Superintendent of the School District here.
Thank you.
So the southwest side of Pewaukee High School is where the existing career technical education shop labs and classes are. So that area, along with the current fitness center and old locker room space, that are being renovated and then expanded to new technical education, art, and physical education spaces.
So
it's
on
at
the
a-
other side of the new big gymnasium, and then
Yeah.
the front, so that back corner part.
Yeah, that southwest corner, it's the oldest part of the school district at this point. So if you drive into the football stadium, kind of right across there, that corner is where it would be some demolition, renovation, expansion.
So that's going to be used for what again?
Technical education, art, and then because we're losing a locker room, there'll be a new locker room, there'll be a new fitness center. That's a component of it as well. So, but the primary purpose is for the technical your manufacturing, your construction, as well as new art classrooms.
It's going to be a shop?
Yep. Yep, so there'll be new shops as part of that. Yep.
So we're not losing any of the current classes that are in that area, we're just bringing them up to date.
Hey, we're modernizing facilities that haven't been touched since they were originally constructed in 1968. So it's been a while.
When you were around.
Yeah, that's, I understand. I think there were garter snakes. Yeah, go ahead,
That'll
Ben.
help. And then I can kind of walk through the staff summary, is that okay?
Yep.
So, so what we're doing here is, again, we're gonna demolish 16,700 square feet of the existing building on the west side of the high school. You can kind of see it in the gray area there. This is the area of the new construction, and there's a turnaround, kind of to the north and west there. You can kind of see it where that exists today. So they're gonna essentially add on some space and reconfigure existing space on the west side. And they're gonna construct approximately 34,000, about 35,000, almost an acre in its place under roof, resulting in a square foot gain of about 18,000 square feet after remodeling of this addition. So the site changes will include new parking lot configuration and stormwater management needs, private storm sewer and public water main reconfigured as part of this project. So it looks like they're going to complete this in two phases. Phase one is the site prep and grading activities, and the relocation of the utilities, architectural, building, and lighting elements is obviously phase two. So the plans are only what the petitioners outlined as phase one of the project above. The intention is to bring the architecture drawings and the other site element drawings like the lighting plans later this year, as we understand it, this submittal. So we walked it through the comprehensive plan. It's really not an issue here. It's institutional and public service, and we're good, obviously. So zoning district requirements, floor area ratio, we looked at that of 30%. The new proposal meets that requirement, meaning it's under that. The building height of 42 feet, which is really unknown if this proposal meets this requirement of 42 feet. We're going to look at the architectural plans as they come in to verify that, but that is the standard, 42 feet. Setback of 50 feet from setback lines, from property lines, it's meeting this. Offset 20 to 30 feet next to residential zone lot. This meets that requirement as well. Open space ratio of 30%. Yeah, a little bit, so the 30% is met there as well. So the improvements are going to, obviously serve for the activities they've identified for the interior classroom space. There's no employment details that are mentioned as far as how many, we use the number of employees for parking calculations, and we'll kind of get into that a little bit. No hours of operation are mentioned, but it's obviously school activity hours, unless there's a concern from the planning commission about that, what other hours might be there, and the applicant can shed some light on that if there's a question. So the configuration is essentially to dead-end portion of the site on the southwest corner. Traffic circulation, it looks like it's going to continue down what is known as a Lake Street along the west side of the building. So traffic can continue around the new parking lot and exit back to the north along Lake Street, is what we're noting here. So there's really no concern with that. The parking, it exists today with, it looks like 78 stalls we counted, including 4 handicap accessible stalls. The proposed improvements will shift the new parking lot further south and now consist of 93 stalls total. After this addition is what we've seen, including the 4 accessible stalls. So it looks like it was originally approved under the code requiring 1 space per teacher and staff member as the standard, 1/2 space per classroom, plus 1 space per 6 students. I think you can all read this in the staff summary, but I believe we're meeting the standards here. The outdoor storage, there's no outdoor storage proposed with this proposal. Landscaping and landscape plan and detail sheet is part of the proposal, so the plan shows foundation plantings along the building, kind of on the end caps of the new parking lot, some new tree plantings on the south. I don't know if I share that or not. I know the commission members have that, they should have that during practice.
Can you show me where the front entrance is on the new building? I finally figured it out. You got it?
Yeah.
I'm like, I do not.
I almost asked Mike to come over and show me.
All right, so I just need a third page. So the front entrance is football field is right here. That's here, so if we were coming up it's here and go in front of the high school.
These are kind of large plans, so they're kind of hard to put back all
Thank
at
you.
once, you know, and you can read them. You can see there's plantings along the edge of the building here, and then within the landscape islands is what we call them in the parking area. So, off-street parking with more than 10 stalls shall have at least 10% landscape. The new lot does not have 10% landscape per the code. However, the proposed landscaping on the end islands is similar to how the existing lot is landscaped today, so we're asking the Plan Commission to discuss that if additional landscaping, because it technically doesn't meet that standard, but if you feel it's appropriate, we can say that. Exterior lighting, no lighting plan, is part of the proposal this time, and they have to come back and kind of demonstrate that their lighting would meet the standards for Village of Pewaukee. No signage is part of this proposal. Signage details will be subject to standards in Chapter 70 of the sign code for the Village of Pewaukee at that time. So we wait to see that when that comes in by that standard. The engineering plans have been submitted to the village engineer. I don't know if there's anything you want to comment on that.
When you're done.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So the grading and erosion control plan are part of the plan set, as well as the stormwater management plan. The plans the plans indicate the grading limits required along with showing a bioretention basin in the southwest corner of the construction limits. Underground storm sewer structures are required. Utilities and public water main is required to be rerouted as part of this project. So as far as the business site plan standards, so we're kind of looking at this, depending on confirmation by the Plan Commission tonight, you know, of all those comments I've made to consider, the Village Plan Commission, you can take the following actions. And what I can do is kind of walk you through, there's 12 conditions of approval. I don't know if you'd like to read all these or.
If they have any questions on it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Questions, some communities want to read them all. It takes a while.
Right.
And I'll just highlight that a lot of these are kind of saying, if they're not provided tonight, we would expect them to be provided to and reviewed by village staff prior to final approval.
Are there any comments from Tim?
All right, so I looked at a couple of things for this particular site. We did make some comments. I was on site with the Director of Public Works and the Utility Superintendent. We talked about the water main. We made some comments to their engineer about the water main. Generally speaking, where they have it located is acceptable to them. We just added a couple of things that they had missing on their original plan. But as far as the site plan goes in their new parking lot, what I requested is for them to run like a fire truck through that parking lot to see if that fire truck could get through there, assuming that there's cars in the lot. And they ran their engineer ran a truck through there. I don't know the type of truck, and so I would like to get, and one of my recommendations is to find out what that vehicle was, and also to determine whether our fire department would accept that as being, I don't know what vehicle they would be wanting to get through that parking lot. So that's one thing that I usually look at to make sure that there's proper access for our fire department. From a vehicle standpoint, it seems to have very good access and flow through that parking lot. It's one-way parking for the most part through there. As far as site grading and drainage, if you've been back there, the site is very relatively flat. It gently slopes to the east towards the baseball fields, tennis courts. What they are planning to do is to actually raise the grade in the back there, where they indicate that they're going to have a future practice facility. But they're going to raise that grade, so if you can think of on the west side, it's going to be pretty close to what it is. On the east side, it's probably going to raise up about 7 feet. Okay, so it's going to raise up quite a bit. It will then slope down to the east. But that would be the location. They're kind of pre-grading it for the future building there. But in doing so, what's good about that is they're actually going to change the water drainage so that instead of it, most of that comes to the east, now it's going to go to the west. And so they're going to have they're upgrading the facility that's out there now, which is just a small little, I'll call it a drainage swale. It's barely a pond. I don't even know if it was designed as a pond, but they're going to use that as well as they are putting in storm sewer where that is directed to the other facilities that they have on site. They're required to do a stormwater management plan. They submitted that yesterday, and we did not get a chance to review that yet. But that will reduce some of the water flow to the east. Not that there's been a problem, but at least it will reduce flow that does go to the east and southeast. As far as the utilities for that, as we said, there's a new water main, so there'll be a new water main connection. There's sanitary sewer that's already existing on the west side of the building, so they'll make their sanitary sewer connection at that location. So if this was to move forward, it would have to be subject to any kind of comment or that they address all the comments from not only myself, but Dave and Sean from the DPW.
And the fire department.
And the fire department, yes. Thank you.
Ben, you had mentioned that the landscaping or green space does not meet the minimum requirements that the village normally has. Am I correct in thinking that if they did, they would have to eliminate parking?
Yeah, they would have to essentially remove some of that paving area or calculate into that.
Okay.
Carve in there some new landscaping, yes.
Okay.
With all the green space on campus, it's not, or is it just like this little?
Within the parking surface area,
Okay.
they're obligated to provide for some green.
Okay. So the site's not under the like
Oh, yeah,
allowable.
this is
I'm like, how's
green
it? Yeah.
You got it. You got it.
Okay.
You're not wrong.
I'm like, there's football and there's,
Yeah, so think of it as impervious
well,
surface
football's
area.
technically not grass, but it's impervious.
Within the confines of the designated parking area.
Okay. That makes more sense.
So again, it was approved under previous standards, and now they're kind of doing the same thing.
Understandable.
Kind of asking for the blessing if they're okay with that, or if you would like to see them pursue that new standard.
Okay, right by, and let's say to the east of the handicap parking, is that like a rain garden, or what is that little swale right here?
To the west of the existing parking?
No, the handicap parking on the drawing, I'm
Oh.
sorry, the drawing's gone.
Yes.
Is that like, they're having a little rain garden?
That would be- I don't think they define it as a rain garden unless it's on the landscape plan as that, but they do have a drain that's gonna be in the center of that.
Right,
So
that's what I saw.
I would think it's gonna work somewhat like a rain garden, and the storm sewer is connected to that as well.
And since I'm not familiar with the building. So these handicap parking stalls will go in this back door that looks like elevation 969, whatever. So do these parkers have somewhere to actually go? Is this, or is it the other side of the building they have more, like to go into the gym? Just seems like these handicap parkers, I'm not sure where they're going. You have to have them closest to the door. So I'm trying to figure out where they're going.
I think currently aren't they on this side of the building? And it looks like we're taking up the portion of that space. There's the couple of the handicap space here. Yeah.
I assume there's a door right here. So are these handicap people, are they gonna enter this door? They're not gonna go around to that door that you said was the front door? And there's a destination here for them?
Yes.
I just wanna make sure they're not having to go all the way here.
Sure, my orientation is correct. Yeah, no, and handicaps are right by
A door that has a purpose. I mean, I just don't want them to have to go through the whole building to get to the gym.
Correct.
Usually when there's school activities, they'll actually say that they're in the gym and people know that the handicap parking for the gym is on the back side of the building.
Okay.
Sorry, 2024
That's okay.
graduate.
And then, as Tim said, the turn radiuses, if they're gonna supply a plan, I'd like to actually, see the turn radiuses on a plan, not just,
Yep, they do have it, but we just got that plan yesterday. So
Okay.
we didn't get a chance to get that out.
okay, thank you.
I can touch on turning radius. Mike Fairlake with Kapoor Associates, civil engineer on the project. Yeah, we did reach out to the fire department. We haven't received a response yet, trying to get their apparatus size and their minimum turning radius. But we did run it with a City of Brookfield fire truck that we had on file, and it was able to make all the turns with no issues. But I believe we did send the diagram, and if we didn't provide the information on it of what type of truck it is, we can send that over. That's not a problem. We kept all the drive aisles a minimum of 20 feet, which is basically the minimum the fire department likes to see for any drive lane. So I had no issues with that. As far as the area that was mentioned adjacent to the ADA parking stalls, it's not a bioswale or a bioretention basin. It's a location where parking had previously existed. The ADA parking was previously in that location, so we basically just removed it and then are providing grass temporarily along with some landscaping, and then just an inlet to pick up any drainage in that area. And then, yeah, the ADA stalls would go in that door located to, it's actually plan east, but it looks like it's, on the plan, it looks like it's to the east, but it's actually to the, actually this is orientated north. The plans you have are rotated the other way. But yeah, it'd be the door to the right on the plan here, or the east. Nope, not that door. There's actually a door located, other way. Other way.
Into the white, because it's an existing door.
Yeah, it's actually right here. There's a canopy right there.
Okay.
And this goes into the gymnasium. The proposed door at this location will be just basically an exit door, egress door, so it's not anticipated that people would enter or exit that location.
Thank you.
Well, how far away are the ADA parking spots from the door?
They're right next to it. The door is right here. So they're basically right next to the door. The existing ADA stalls are in the same location. So we kept them in the same location to serve they're right here in the existing condition. Here's the door and the canopy, and then the new stalls are located right in that same location.
And that's the main gym right there.
And then, as far as I know we had talked about the landscape requirement for the internal landscaping. We did, I guess, look at the parking lot kind of holistically when we ran the calculations. And if we're just looking at purely internal to the parking lot, we don't meet the 10%. But if we look at some of the areas directly adjacent to the parking stalls on the ends of the parking lot, we do meet the 10%. So we were trying to meet it while also trying to maximize the number of parking stalls that we can attain in that area. I think that right now we have an increase of 14 parking stalls over what's currently located on the backside.
Now, are there vehicles or anything going into the building to be worked on in the
There-
shop area?
There are overhead doors that'll be located along the west side of the building addition. I do not believe it's anticipated that vehicles would go in there. It's anticipated that's where material would be loaded into the building, such as wood or metals. That's where they would receive shipments. I think there's a total of 3 overhead doors.
Focus of the new spaces is manufacturing and construction, not automotive. We don't have a program, so we're amplifying the construction and the manufacturing. That's the main thrust of those facilities. Those overhead doors allow us for building sheds or those kinds of things. We get larger pieces.
So this isn't going to do anything for the automotive construction trade as far as working on equipment or anything like that?
It will be for a lot, but not autos specifically, but construction, manufacturing, a lot of CNC mills, that kind of thing will be part of this, but not, there won't be an autos bay.
Are there any other questions? I guess I'm not totally confused, but I have a little reservation here. I'm trying to understand with everything that you're looking for, staff is looking for, what are we supposed to do?
Well, I think you can make an approval. There's some contingencies that have to be made. But I think it's in a position to be approved, right, Ben?
Yeah, so staff didn't have a lot of major concerns with this review, but like I said, so we wanted to talk about, the status of the engineering plans, and we all know that they're forthcoming. So we need to kind of review some of that. And then the principal structure height, we need to see architecture plans before we can make a determination on that, so that'll be a condition of approval. If it's above that, then we might have to pursue a conditional use grant, but I think 42 or whatever it'll end up being would be met.
Do you know? I actually don't know off the top of my head what it is. I know the intent is to be below that though.
That's good.
Yeah, but I don't have a.
If it were to come in taller,
architect here.
if it were to come in taller, we compare it to the village code, and then we could follow the recipe that the ordinance guides us. If it calls for a conditional use grant or what have you, that's the process we'd have to go.
I can tell you that there's no second story set of classrooms. There is one structure next to the center that will have an interior ceiling height of 20 feet. I don't know what that equates to the exterior of the structure.
Sounds like it'd be okay. So again, the building architecture, the planning commission more than likely would probably, are you okay with, staff reviewing that? Or that would be under the purview of the planning commission as well, but staff can review that as a condition of approval if you'd like the planner and staff to look at that, to kind of remove that unless you want to have some oversight on that.
Wouldn't that be part of phase 2 more?
That would be, yeah. Yeah, so it would come back for that, but that's kind of, I think we built that in as a condition that it would have to come back. But I was just highlighting that this is our recommendation, that as long as you are aware that this stuff still needs to be hammered out, that we will do that at the next go around when they, because I think the plan set now is just, does the footprint look appropriate with the grading and everything, that they're going to spend more money to actually design it, was the kind of the plan, I think. And then lighting and landscaping, I think we don't have any idea on lighting, we do have landscaping. So other than the landscaping, with the interior, of the parking area, I think everything else is hammered out. So the plan commissions generally, are you okay with that, or would you like to see it meet that standard that we have at the village, would be the question, I think, for the plan commission tonight. So they have a better sense for how to pursue the phase 2 plans.
But doesn't the green space or the landscaping at this particular point match the rest of the the rest of the Pewaukee High School area with the changes that we've gone through already in the last couple of years in terms of parking and the landscaping in that area. So it's consistent.
That's correct, yeah. With all the parking that exists on the north end of the site, that was all designed in a similar manner with landscape islands of basically on the ends.
Yes,
And that's what we're replicating in the southwest.
thank you.
It's just an issue of meeting that 10% in this area.
And I understand that.
So you're saying if they meet the 10%, then you're okay with that?
If we're gonna give up parking spaces to meet the 10%, that's a problem.
We would. I mean, that's the only way they're gonna get, the extra space is to give up parking.
Yeah.
So staff would like the commission to kind of decide on that, I guess.
And what I'm,
And you would have the ability to waive that.
We can waive that
That's what I'm
via
saying.
CUD.
Yeah.
that.
So if you want to,
I heard that, and that's what I'm saying. No,
Yeah.
I don't need,
And I'm in agreement with you on that also.
I don't need bushes. I need parking spaces.
gotcha.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, to
My
attain-
concern is that we lose those spots, they're gonna be parking in the neighborhoods.
Not in that particular area.
No, you can't get to a neighborhood from there.
You don't think so?
No one's gonna go park in a neighborhood to walk to that area.
But what she's saying is, we don't need to meet the 10% requirement. She wants the parking.
Yes,
Yes.
Yeah,
correct. There's enough green space.
yeah.
I don't have the counts.
I was just asking how close are they to that 10%? I mean, we want to pursue 10% because we don't want to be given waivers every time someone comes in, doesn't quite meet our code. We've been very strict, I believe, on the 10%, over the years, I think. Very strict about that, so, and that means maybe losing a parking spot or two. I don't think we're talking about a lot of parking spots, but I don't know that for sure.
I didn't have the background counts in front of me, and I know my coworker helped me out with this a little bit too, and I can converse with him about how close we were. But I think what I'm hearing though is there's really not a concern about this particular side of the facility, right? Is that what I'm hearing? For this parking lot? There's a couple parking lots, I think, but this is the one that I think we're focused on with this building commission.
But we still want the parking.
And I did send a diagram later this afternoon. I think I emailed it to Scott, but I'm sure it didn't make its way around. That does show how we are meeting the 10% by including some of the end caps on the parking bays. So the definition of interior landscaping is a little gray. It's not really defined what that means. Can it be on the edge? Does it have to be completely surrounded by asphalt? I know we're looking for a definition of it. It's not real clear, but I did provide a plan that shows basically shaded areas around the parking lot where we do reach that 10% threshold.
So it sounds like you've researched that, provided it, and then the counts will accommodate for stormwater and things like that as well.
And we did, in including some of those end caps on the parking aisles, we did eliminate parking stalls. If we were to go even less, we could probably gain another 4 or 5. So we did already create a little bit of a reduction in the parking to try to hit that 10%, but in lieu of putting a bunch of islands in the middle of the parking lot, we're trying to stick them on the ends.
So the photos of that are on the second to last page, because the last page in our pile is what type of greenery that is going to be, and you can clearly see that the end caps around the reservoir pondish sort of thing, but each of the end caps, the additional end caps, the next to the handicap, the additional up against the building, there's some canopy type things, greenery, and then up here something there's right behind the parking lot area, which would still be the drivable space. I mean, if it has to come down to a level of comfort and that they're at 9% or 9.3%, I mean, that's why we're here, because we can say that the school in this particular area has an exception, correct?
Yeah, if you're comfortable with a waiver to that 10% requirement, we just want that on the record, so there's clear indication of that, yes.
And the rationale, so I think
Correct.
you're communicating that, so that's good.
If you're able to bring up the landscape plan again.
It's up there. You mean the new one? This is the.
That we did include in that calculation were these end areas. So we could have added 2 additional parking stalls here, could have added 2 additional there, but we decided, well, let's add that green space on the end where the trees have a better chance of surviving, as opposed to taking these spaces and putting them in the middle of the parking lot. So we were trying to hit that 10%, but also being reasonable about it.
Where the future indoor practice facility is listed, is that impervious now or pervious?
Right now it's pervious, it's all grass space.
So is that pond sized correctly if they come back and build this facility?
If we come back and build that facility, we would construct an underground detention system along the south end of the building, underneath the drive lane that would have to be created to go around it to connect to the back. We actually did send a stormwater report to, I guess, address that right away, just as kind of an FYI. We are considering it and looking to the future, which is also why we're rerouting the water main where we are, as opposed to just routing it for this building, move it out of the way for any future development as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
Get rid of those other 2 trees and give us 4 parking.
Well, I just would like to comment that the city fire department, who we contract with, has to approve this. Because I think the last time we had this built, there was in that last building, they brought the ladder truck to make sure the ladder truck would get around there. So I don't know what Brookfield brought over or whatever, but I would like to make sure that it's the city approving it.
And that's essentially in the 12 comments and the recommendations.
I think
correct? It
that's-
talks about the fire?
They're in line, which are
I was gonna say, I think they're in
written but
Tim's.
not, you don't
Okay.
have them, but.
Oh, okay.
Those will be in line.
Okay.
And I'll give them to staff for minutes.
So, how would you like us to word this approval?
Well, I think if it's an approval, it would be an approval, subject to the planner's recommendations. I think there needs to be a specific finding as to the landscaping issue. And then it would be subject to Tim's comments in his engineering report, which is inclusive of comments from DPW, fire department. That's all in there, right? Yeah.
And the city fire department approval?
Which is part of Tim's.
Which is part of
recommendations.
Tim's, it's in Tim's report.
Tim's got that one.
Yeah, Tim has the DPW and the fire department in there.
Okay. So, if there are no other comments or questions, would someone like to make an motion?
Can I just clarify, but it's not architecture? I mean, we don't have any architecture, do you want that to come back?
I think that your report is postured that it has to come back for
Yeah, it has
phase
to
2.
come back. This is phase 1, and then phase 2 would be they would spend more money to draw the building, design it, and provide everything.
Correct, yeah. Architecture, we had a meeting this morning. They plan on coming to Plan Commission likely in October.
Just so that we're all clear that we're gonna see them again, but it's not gonna be about site plan issues. It's gonna be about architecture.
Correct. Architecture, lighting, signage, those items.
Okay.
But for the motion, don't we need to, if we want to change the landscaping, don't we need to make that as a separate motion that we'll accept as presented?
It doesn't have to be a separate motion. It can be all included in one. The plan in front of you contemplates a waiver already. I mean, if you're approving what's in front of you, you're kind of by proxy approving a waiver because they don't meet the 10%. I think you have to make a specific finding in the motion as to why or what departure you're willing to make from the landscaping. But it can be as one approval motion.
Are we anybody comfortable making a motion?
me personally, being part of the Pewaukee school system for the last 18 years, I truly think we need parking spaces up there. And so I'd really like to know what this percentage issue is, and if we can move 2 trees and get 4 more parking spaces, that is something that we need to look at. I think you, unless you've been a parent over there ever, the parking and the driving is the biggest issue. So if you're allowing, even if that back parking space becomes this parking spaces for the staff of the high school or something of that nature during the day, and then the students for activities during the night, I don't think we should ever pass up an opportunity to improve parking spaces and the driving area there.
So just to clarify, what you're suggesting is going further than what they've proposed?
Well, I believe, and I apologize, I'm terrible with names. Mike, so you had said that, you guys have already been very conscientious of this. You've mimicked it towards the front that we've already approved and have been living with for a couple of years now. But he even clearly stated that in this roundabout area, they got rid of 2 parking spots on either side and put in trees. We don't need trees. We need parking spaces. So I would rather have more parking spaces, less trees, or move the trees, or throw in a bush or 2, so that we could maximize that space, and the only thing that's available there is parking.
So that's what, the staff report kind of highlighted. I'll just direct it to page 3 at the top. It talks about that you can say basically you're discussing the need for additional landscaping in lieu of, the landscape islands. I mean, that could be an alternative.
Well, you do need some snow storage. I mean, so you gotta still have some green space or you won't be able to plow this parking lot.
And right behind that is full green space, all the way up to the tree line, all the way up to the.
Is that where you push your snow now?
There's a practice field, that's actually where the grade's gonna be raised.
Okay.
So that would be a space where we can plow the snow.
Were those 2 trees you were talking about, were those existing trees or ones that would be part of added as part of the ones?
Would be added as part of the
Okay.
plan. If you're able to pull up the landscape plan again. So again, we were aiming to hit that 10% requirement, and we are able to meet it by eliminating parking stalls on the end. So we could add theoretically probably 3 to 4 more parking stalls here, because the edge of the pavement is here, and I know we could add 2 more here. We eliminated 2 there. So again, we were trying to hit the 10%, and we did by including this area, and some of those areas on the north. So in lieu of taking these islands and putting them in the middle of the parking lot and make it difficult to plow, we just shifted them to the end and included that in the 10%. But if we're willing to go less than the 10%, we can probably pick up 5 to 6 additional parking stalls. If that's something that the board wants to consider.
I think if the commission is wanting to do that, though, they have to be specific in what departure they're making from 10%. And I don't know if you have the information in front of you to do that tonight. If you want to make a departure.
I personally think if we depart from the 10%, we need to stay as close to it as possible. Because that's what we've kind of done in the past, and we're opening a can of worms to let everybody pave over everything.
And we can't
To a point.
stand on some premise of it being the school area. It's the school, it's part of the future education, and it's landlocked, and it's part of the school. There's no special, any consideration because it's our school and it's landlocked. I'm not talking about Bob's car maintenance place. I'm not talking about Chick-fil-A. I'm not talking about, someone on the lakefront wanting another patio set. We're talking about our children, our education, and our particular space where we are landlocked.
Yeah, but that's my personal opinion.
I
yeah.
appreciate it. I'm just asking.
Right.
I don't know what that looks like, so I have to look to those that have that knowledge.
Well, I think if you added, let's just call north up in this picture, please. On the east side, if you added those 3 or 4, I think your fire truck's gonna have an even harder time getting around that corner. Because now you have cars, people don't park right. So I mean, I think you're not gonna get as many as you think you are right there. Unless, we don't want you to remove that island.
I have no issues with
The actual.
I have no issues with the plan as we see it up there.
I don't either.
Correct, that plan, yes. I'm just saying if you added 4 more spots, I think it would be tight to get the, whatever size engine we're taking around.
Okay,
Jeff, do you have an opinion on
I'll go with the flow. I'm kind of going both ways.
it? Feel strongly.
Yeah. I think there's always a need for more parking, but then again, if we're looking at taking away vegetation, we required it from everybody else.
I don't have a
And
problem
they're
with it.
landlocked too. When they buy a piece of property, they're landlocked on 2 acres, 3 acres, 1 acre. And they have to come in with the amount of parking they need and
When they built that school originally,
I'm
they
sorry?
had, when they built that school originally, when they bought that property originally, they had no idea that we'd become as big as we are and the need would be as big. When somebody's purchasing something today, yes, they are aware of that. That would be my argument for that.
Right. Oh, I remember that, yeah.
Now, this current plan, we're increasing the amount of parking over what the current is right now also.
You're adding 14 spots.
Are you adding more teachers, more students, or basically is that,
No, there's not, this is not this is like an upgrade and a modernization of the facility. We're not projecting necessarily a notable increase in student population or staff. Right now, our enrollment is very flat.
I'm sure it's going to increase over the next few years, but right now, we're not looking at an increase of all of this. This is just to add into what is there existing. So I guess you could say the amount of people that are going to be using it is going to still be the same.
Yeah, it's very heavily used in that particular location because of the access to the athletic facilities. It's used all year round, because you have all the youth sports that use everything, tournaments, that kind of thing. So parking's very much at a premium, especially if you think about entrances to the gym and the football stadium and those kinds of things in that particular location. So we're always looking for an opportunity to enhance the parking a little bit. But to your question, we're not projecting substantial increases in staff or student population in the near future. Yep.
And I guess I'd be okay with the way it is right now. So would someone like to make a motion with all of the add-ons that are necessary?
I can't make the motion.
Well, I know you can't.
I can provide guidance.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for.
Okay, so I will make a motion to accept the plan as we see here, as long as the staff recommendations and report is satisfied, that would include fire, that would include DPW, engineering, and also including the current parking and landscaping as proposed.
And this is still gonna come back for the architectural, right?
As a business site plan approval, and that would
Right.
include architecture.
Okay.
Second,
Okay, so we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Opposed?
What was that?
I'm opposed.
One, okay. So it's 4-1. Motion is hereby carried. Thank you. Okay, citizen comments? Okay, there are none. Item 8, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Would we like to discuss this further? All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion is carried. We are hereby adjourned.